Facilities Maintenance Division. I had met someone, I think it was a League of California Cities meeting, or maybe,
Bonnie and
yeah,
I
from the League meeting, talked to an individual that's actually doing an energy audit for the city of Hemet. And Matt's taken the lead on that. So that individual, I think, is finalizing a preliminary report to see what our energy usage is, what it looks like moving forward. So it's really Tim's shop and Matt that really took the lead on that. So I really want to thank him on that. When it comes to the adopted park, I've been having some conversations with members of the community that have conveyed their interest to me, and I know that I've teamed them up. COVID really put a wrench into everything, but we set them up with community development to talk about, and also some of our other departments to talk about where the needs are at, where we can identify and have just shovel-ready projects where if individuals want to volunteer, we have something where we can match them up with the need in the community. So those are all things that are happening. I think it's a great opportunity, and we definitely have a number of individuals that really want to give back to our community, which we're really fortunate to have that in our community. So we really want to be able to capitalize, plug them into an area where they can help out and really be for the benefit of the city. So I think those are all good points.
And just add on to that, when I mentioned the catch-22, it's the type of thing that it's the appearance of dirty sidewalks and dilapidated fronts and over, trash in parks that really restricts economic development, because a developer and or a commercial business, retail business will come into town and drive this Florida Avenue,
and not just Florida,
and just say, I'm not going to bring my business here, even though the business may be extremely successful here. You look around, and if you see that it's run down, you're not going to come. So spit, shine, and paint sometimes is a good substitute for bigger project infrastructure. So that's the type of thing we need as a whole, as a community, to take more responsibility and more pride in our community, so that developers will come in and businesses will come in.
I remember not too far back, we had a plan to identify specific neighborhoods that would be addressed, that the blight would be addressed. Remember that? Everyone was out of their district, was to choose an area that should be addressed, and a couple streets, and we'd work on that, block by block. And I think that was a really good plan or thought process and even if down the road, and I actually thought we had put CDBG money towards that.
I think we did a long time ago.
Yeah, but it never happened. So again, I think it's what people see visually, and as long as the effort is noticed, and it can only go up because there's some pretty bad areas that need to be addressed. But again, like Linda said, engaging the community. Look at what I think it was Interfaith Council did around the library, and how beautiful that was, and it just takes someone to coordinate those efforts, and I think that you'd be pleasantly surprised today as to how many community members would really jump at the chance to try and make things happen.
And don't forget, we have our new community outreach committee that we haven't been able to meet because of COVID, but hopefully this next month. But the first two meetings, the first meeting we had 85, the second one before it got canceled, we had like 85 people RSVP to come. And so if that group is willing to take on, so that it doesn't land on staff, Chris, as far as for volunteers, there was somebody there from every single group in town. And, it's one of those, it's an open invitation, but people are dying to participate.
I think that's a good vehicle to explore that concept. The other opportunity that occurred to me while I'm listening to the comments is the infrastructure commission that is still pending, and I think that is another vehicle that we can channel people through, because that will be dealing with parks as well as streets and traffic. So I think, and I have to, I guess to sum up your summation on what people see, it's the old adage, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And so when people are coming in to look at the community, if that's their first visit here, what they see is what they're going to leave with. And so I think anything that we can do in those directions is going to be time well spent.
Especially on the major thoroughfares, scenic routes. I mean, it's frustrating for me when I drive down Sanderson Avenue by the high school when I see weeds that are 2 feet tall coming out of the cracks in the center. I mean, those are just little things that can be easily rectified.
Okay.
I'm done.
Bonnie, are you ready now?
I already said my summation.
Okay.
Earlier, before we were through.
Okay. Well, earlier you said you weren't ready yet, so.
Oh, because I've already, some of the things I've already chimed in on.
Okay.
I do have some things about public works and pretty much what Linda brought up was on the same line, so I'm not going to rehash that again.
Michael, anything else?
I just want to reiterate back to the resolution that I think it's very important that we have maybe a work study or something. It needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed sooner than later.
Okay.
To be either be reworked or, I mean, there needs to be council input on it, and Measure U committee input on it as well. I mean, ultimately, the funds are to be used for public safety. But what does that look like? Because police and fire is not just public safety. There's more to public safety than police and fire. And public safety is making sure that we don't have 4-inch cracks in the sidewalk and somebody trips and falls and then now we're looking at a lawsuit. We should be able to address those things, and Measure U is not one-time funding. It's an ongoing funding source while it's in place. The one-time fundings are the money, the revenue that was generated from the sale of refuge. That's a one-time funding source. But I think that we need to have a real look at the resolution. It needs to be changed, especially based, I mean, if this budget passes, it does not follow the resolution at all. And so we need to have, it's like I said, it's got to be a sooner than later discussion on making changes to that resolution to still fit within the intent of public safety.
I agree with that, and I think that a lot of what I'm hearing in this is that it reminds me of the adage, and I know our public safety people, particularly the police, will relate to this. There's the letter of the law and there's the spirit of the law. And I think that even though there's the conflict between the letter of the resolution and what we're being asked to look at in review of this budget proposal, I think this budget proposal is in keeping with the spirit of the resolution, but I wholeheartedly agree that we need to deal with the letter of the resolution and make it all match up. And I think that needs to be done sooner than later.
And I said that was all I had, but I do have one other thing I want to point out. Every single employee that we have is an integral part of the operation of the city. And I know that a lot of the operations go unseen, they're behind the scenes, and they don't get they're just not out there in the public like police and fire, public safety is. And I know that both police and fire are being beat up right now in the national media, and it's absolutely disgusting to me. I just want our police and our fire to know that they have the backing of this council, and that, and we're hearing on the national level, defund the police, defund the police, defund budget, from a verbiage standpoint, our police is getting defunded, based on the fact that we're having positions defunded. That's the reality of it. But on the spirit of it is that these are non-funded, they're not filled positions, so we're not reducing that workforce. But like Carly said, I think that these positions need to stay very fluid to be able to be added very quickly, so that when the funding changes, when California gets opened back up, whenever that may be, we've got to wait for His Majesty to open us up. But I think it's important that we make sure that these public safety positions can be added back in as funding and more funding comes. And it goes back to, we're still seeing a revenue projection amidst COVID that's higher than the original revenue projections of Measure U. So there still should be funding available, and we still need to look at Measure U to fund positions, because that's what it's for. And it's not, we shouldn't be looking at how much money we need to carry over every year. What we need to be doing is showing measurables, as Chief Brown has mentioned before. We need to be able to show measurable and have measurable results for our community, so that they see that Measure U is working for the city of Hemet, so that when it comes time for Measure U to come back to the ballot to be extended, that we can't say, hey, listen, if this doesn't get extended, we're not going to see what we're having now. We need to make sure this goes on. So, and trust me, I'm not a tax proponent, especially at the state level, but our community has more direct access to the council, who is responsible for making sure this money is being spent where it should be spent to benefit this community directly. Because on a state level, you pass a state increase in state tax, you'll never see it. It'll pay for somebody's pet project, and it will never come to heaven. So,
and I think that in and of itself is ample justification for what we talked about earlier, is revisiting how we do the accounting of that.
Yeah, and my stance has never changed on that.
And I think that
that
needs to be a priority.
It needs to be made very easy. Here's your budget for police. Here's your budget for fire.
Carly, you have any
I don't
summation?
have, I'm not to summation yet. I still have issues.
Okay.
I don't need to pull it up on the packet, but it's, as it has to do with staffing. So the issues that I have with staffing, first of all, we constantly hear about how our public works department is at the food bank, or getting blue chip stamps, or whatever they qualify for. But we do nothing. We haven't done anything about it. Okay, so we have that issue, and then we have, and this is, it is what it is. This is in our report. So we have two departments that have employees getting promotions and raises, but there's no additional employees that are going to be added. So in my opinion, instead of promotions and raises, keep doing your job. And if any money can be scraped aside to be given out, it needs to be for something that we've kind of had on our radar. So I'm talking about our community development. We have people that are bumping up. So if people are bumping up, but there's no new positions, the same jobs are still going to be getting done, no matter what. Their job descriptions might change, everybody might swap, whatever it is. If you have the same number of people, but everybody's just moving up the ladder, I'm not sure that is 10% cut across the board. And if there is a hiring freeze, we should not be moving anybody up any ladder. That's not the time for this. So, the same with the finance department. We have people that are bumping up, and they're getting pay increases, and they're getting bigger job descriptions or bigger titles. Well, we have people in the public works department that are, I don't think that this is the time for that. And it goes all the way up to having the deputy city manager. I'm not willing to approve that. So that entire department is all, those two departments are moving up a ladder in a time where everybody is taking a 10% cut is what our budget says. So that will keep me from approving this budget.
You want to comment on that?
And the fact is that there are too many things that are not done in those two departments to not justify moving up a ladder. You don't get to move up a ladder in any other job if your jobs aren't done. I could list them, but I don't need to go there, do I?
City manager would like to address that.
Yeah, so there's only two individuals that report to the mayor and the city council, and that's the city attorney and the city manager. All employees report to me. So if I have issues with employees, I will take that up on my side. I don't intend to have council weigh in on those items because that's not the council's role. They are not to involve themselves with personnel decisions. Across the agency, we've made recommendations to right-size a number of departments, and I can think of in Public Works, there's a couple positions that have been included in there to help right-size the organization. So collectively, we've provided a balanced budget that doesn't utilize any reserves. I feel that in what I've seen from the personnel and the agency itself, that these are much needed, that the consolidation of the JPIA in particular requires more concentration on behalf of the risk side, the HR side, the personnel side, as well as the IT side, as well as the finance side. So that's why I've made those recommendations in there. One of the things that's been a holdover item, I know that the council mentioned that they want to get off the state audit list. Well, the organization needs to change. And so that's why I programmed those items there. And I mentioned last night that just because we had COVID-19 hit doesn't mean that we don't move forward on consolidations and making the agency what it needs to be. So that's why we've included those items in the budget.
So are you telling me that it's not my place to say those things?
No, what I'm saying is if there are issues with personnel, I handle them.
So you're asking for us to increase personnel. So you want me to weigh in on it or you don't?
What I'm saying is that across the agency we've done things and we've added positions to right-size the organization based on what they are doing. That's why we've included them in the budget.
Okay, well, back to council. There is no reason for us to take steps up a ladder when we are doing 10% increases across the board. And he can say that putting his personnel, but if we are going to approve a staffing plan, we are doing this. So we are denying raises to one group and giving promotions in two different departments. And that is the walk not matching the talk. The report and the words in the report don't match what we're talking about, what we've been presented. It's, do I have to list the things that aren't done? I mean, Linda and I are on the investment committee, and we know that there are policies and procedures that are not in place. I asked last meeting, and they said it's not. The finance department has things to still catch up on from the planning group audit. You don't give bumps up the ladder if the jobs aren't complete, let alone during a time of cuts and layoffs. It may be different if we weren't laying off anyone, but if people are getting laid off, we cannot be giving promotions. And there are several people that are bumping up in each department. What is the point of that?
Other comment?
I'll provide some more commentary on the reductions in service. We touched on this last night. As a result of, and I'll just discuss community development, for instance. It makes absolutely no sense to have 3 administrative personnel for 3 code enforcement officers. We talked about the change in the operation that needs to occur But that's not going to happen with the addition of administrative personnel. You're talking about a fundamental shift in how things are operating. When we talk about the consolidation of engineering into public works, unfortunately, when we run this operation, it doesn't make sense to have additional personnel when we don't need it. That's a business decision. I don't know that any business knowingly takes additional personnel and keeps them on
Didn't address those, so you're answering something that I didn't talk about.
if the work isn't there. Now, when it comes to negotiations, those are all things that we talk about in closed session. And so there's a time and a place when it comes to those items, and that is in closed session. And that's where I get my direction when it comes to negotiations and with respect to increases for bargaining groups in our community. That's provided in closed session.
So the fact is that we're going to give these, we've conceded to the layoffs. We can't do anything about it. But are we going to turn around and give increases and step-ups in job positions?
Well, I guess from my perspective, unless somebody else wants to comment, but yeah, I look at it, I understand what you're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree, but I guess my perspective is broader in the sense that I think COVID or no COVID, city manager was taking council direction to look at the entire organization, and he's used the term right size. That's a very common business term, but I think every CEO and every city manager has the duty and the obligation and the authority to look at the entire operation and look at that operation's mission and determine, are we working smartly? Are we working efficiently? Do we have redundancy? Do we have gaps in service? And then you look at what funds you have available to spend to accomplish that mission. And then they make recommendations on how to do that. And that may mean eliminating positions. It may mean redefining roles and responsibilities. It may be any myriad of things. But that is all within the realm of a CEO in the private industry or the city manager in a municipal organization. So I feel that what his commitment to us and responsibility to us is to bring us a balanced budget that is going to address operational efficiencies based on funding that we have available. And I think that's been done.
I have a question for you, Mayor. You're the mayor of the city of Hemet, and you're the leader of this town. So please explain to me how giving increases in pay, but how services are going to change. If you're giving the same people a step up the ladder and an increase in pay and shiny new titles, how is that going to bring efficiency to our city?
Well, I think in a roundabout way, I already addressed that. That if you're changing roles and responsibilities, that may be commensurate with a title change or a salary change. That is achieving the overall objective of right-sizing the organization and getting the workload accomplished.
So with the same number of employees, what will be done different to justify the increase in pay?
I don't have a specific answer for
But I'm just
that,
asking you
other
as the
than
mayor.
to say that the city manager, in his assessment of our organization, has made recommendations on how to make things more efficient to accomplish the mission that we have of providing municipal services with the funds available that we have spent.
I'm just waiting to hear what the efficiencies are going to be with the same number of people doing the exact same job for more money.
Well, I didn't
How
hear him
is that
say
efficient?
them doing the exact same job.
Well, they said that no services are going to be changed, so that means that the same services are going to be provided.
Well, I'm hearing that there's been some reallocation of roles and responsibilities. Correct me if I'm wrong, City Manager, but in looking at the organization and combining departments and revisiting the whole entire organization, you've made some changes in job assignments and responsibilities, or am I wrong?
No, those individuals would take on more responsibility, would take on various programs, divisions, operations. I think I stated it not the last council meeting, but before that one, I've got about 13 people that directly report to me. For those of you that go to City Hall, you see how I run from meeting to meeting to meeting with subordinate staff, trying to make my day as effective as possible. But I can't do it with the number of people that directly report to me. My ability to do that is extremely limited because I'm running from person to person to person, and I just can't oversee those numbers of people. So at the end of the day, that's what makes sense to the organization. That's what makes sense in providing the economies of scale and the management of this organization. That's the bottom line.
My point is that we have inefficiencies in these very departments, and then you're going to add more responsibilities to them. I understand that you do need someone by your side. I absolutely agree with you, because you do go above and beyond and do more than one person.
I've been here full-time for, 6 months? I'm your 13th city manager. These things didn't happen overnight, and they're not going to be fixed overnight. And so the expectations that things are going to be right-sized overnight are they're pie in the sky. They're unrealistic. And unfortunately, you've got holdover because you've got issues that have never been addressed for over a decade. And if you expect me to right-size that in 6 months, a year, it's extremely unrealistic. It's going to take time. I believe that across the agency, this is what we need to do to get to where we need to be. We're not at where we want to be, but I think we're well on our way there. And I think you can see that by the path of successes that we've had in just the 6 months that I've been your permanent CM, or the over a year that I've been interim or CM permanently. So it's going to take time. It's going to take a cultural shift. That's why we are recommending these things. We need to move the organization in the direction that it needs to head in. That's change. It's uncomfortable for a lot of people, but that's what needs to get done to move this organization to a higher performing organization.
I'm just saying that the increases and the raises are not justified in a time when you wrote yourself that there's 10% cuts across the board.
Linda?
Yes.
You know, Carly, I agree with you on a lot of what you said. There are some details in here that I don't agree with, but I'm looking at this, that this is the CM's plan. He runs the city day to day. We set policy. This is his budget. We vote on, and we get to follow up on it, whether it works or not. And, you know, new people in new positions, we need to give them a chance with their ideas. Same as with the new police chief, new department heads, whatever. Need to give them a chance to prove their plan. That's how I look at it.
And I think comment was made last night, and it might have been the city manager that said this, but and again, it's an old cliche, but we've been doing the same thing the same way, expecting a different result. And this is an opportunity to do something different and hopefully achieve the results that previous leadership was trying to achieve, but by approaching it the same way over and over. So the proof is in the pudding. I think we owe it to our staff. We have a lot of energy, and we've got a lot of bright leadership out there that has an opportunity to show what they can do with the realignment and a fresher look at the organization. So I think that's all I really want to say more about that. Bonnie?
City manager runs the operation. It's not our job to do so. There might be some things that we don't agree with, but we're not the managers of the city. I do think, I totally agree with you, Carly, on the fact that it hurts me deeply that, as it does you, and I'm sure all of us, that there's many people that have not seen any kind of a raise for 13 years. That bothers me a lot. But I think we need to address that in closed session and see if there's something that we can do. But personnel issues and things like that need to be discussed in closed session.
Well, we are asked to vote on this in open session, and this very thing is something we vote on, the staffing plan. So if you guys aren't willing to do it, that's fine. But Russ, you said, and this probably happened before you even lived in this town, but repeating the same thing over and over, we have promoted in the past people that are unqualified during cuts. And then they've left us with legacy problems. So yes, we are starting the crazy cycle right now, if you approve this.
Any other comments? Any more questions?
It's not a myopic picture, it's a bigger picture.
Okay, well, I think we've spent 2.5 hours discussing, asking questions, commenting. So, if there's no more discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve staff recommendation on item 15B, the proposed fiscal year 2021 budget. It includes item number 1, to approve the resolution, number 2, approve citywide salary schedule, and to receive and file the letter from the Measure U Oversight Committee.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve item 15B with all 3 recommendations, correct? We have a roll call vote, please.
We can have discussion first, maybe. Are we going to talk about any, there's always discussion after the first and the second. Are we going to discuss about any of the items that we changed? We talked about not eliminating police and fire positions. We talked about fixing the approved budget number,
You said we addressed that.
but it wasn't part of the motion. So we said as presented. With the recommendations, would you enumerate which ones we've had? Thank you, Carl.
So I've actually got a list that's going here. We had conversation about the grants analyst as well. We had conversation about directing me to set up a conversation about Resolution 4731 and the plan for Measure U. The items related to the attorney, the unfunding of the positions versus deleting them in the budget, and then finally including the amended column versus the adopted column in the budget.
Is there anything else on your list? Okay. Yes, including all of those. That's my motion.
Okay. So, okay with your second? More discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Councilor Amar?
No, I vote no because of the attorney and the staffing increases during the 10% cut.
Councilor Percival?
I vote no.
Councilor Wright?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. Motion passes 3-2. Thank you very much, staff, for your indulgence and your input. And moving on to item 15C, the coronavirus update.
I thought about that this morning, but I didn't give that update last night, so let me get to the item.
Who's next on the list?
So this update is given because at the March 16, 2020 meeting, the mayor and the council directed me to provide an update at every subsequent council meeting on COVID-19. At the last council meeting, the council directed us to have the chambers open to the public. So as you can see, we don't have any members of the public here right now, but they were here last night. I should add that we actually did a test run at the Planning Commission meeting last week. And that went very well, and so we've added some signage today that clearly delineates the hand cleaning stations and the requirements of individuals that do enter the chambers. In addition to that, we have brought back the bulk of our staff, much of the staff, back into City Hall and offsite locations. We are planning and preparing for a reopening. We're looking at potentially the middle of next week. We did have a employee that did test positive for COVID-19 that we got the results late yesterday afternoon. So we have partnered up with Riverside County Public Health, and they are providing guidance on what we should be doing. Even before the individual was tested positive, we were in communication with them and advised them of what we had coming and the potential moving forward. I really want to thank Chief Brown for coordinating discussions with County Public Health and really providing a standardized rubric as to how we will move forward with this going forward. With the assistance of Erica, she's done an outstanding job in developing and making available our citywide policies as it relates to COVID-19 that have again been refined and developed by LCW. That clearly stipulates the items of what we expect from our employees, the requirements, and everything that they are expected to do moving forward. In addition to that, the governor did mandate the use of face masks, and so we are re-emphasizing that with our employees and making sure that everybody is continuing to get their temperature checked before they enter city facilities and making sure that they're getting screened and letting us know whether or not they have any symptoms. So it's worked out well. Everything has gone on so far. And we wish our employee that does have COVID-19 a quick and speedy recovery. So we're looking for, I will provide a nailed down date as to when we will reopen. We probably will have it geared so that we have it in potentially a shift from about 9 to 1 and then gradually get into the spirit of broader reopening. But that's the plan. We've implemented and installed. I want to give thanks to the facilities crew again, Matt DeVore, for installing sneeze guards throughout our facilities, spacing between individuals, capacity requirements, and the sanitizing stations throughout all of our facilities. So we've prepared all of those. We're just finalizing the last few items before we reopen to the public. So those are the updates that I have for the mayor and the council. Happy to answer any questions if the council has any.
Questions from council? I just have one quick question. I just got this email today. Somebody who has a friend that was hoping to find out when plans are reviewed because they want to put in a swimming pool. And my understanding is that that process has continued to be available electronically and with drop-off outside City Hall. So
absolutely,
that's still been going on. So that was the reply that I gave them, that if your contractor is saying that they can't get things approved, they haven't tried.
And we actually, the community development staff was the first department that we brought back, and so they've been back for probably about 3 or 4 weeks now. So we made sure to accommodate the building community, the development community, that they were at the offices responding to individuals. So if you go on our website, we've got an email address that's there as well as a phone number. Best to email, and they will respond back on any requirements that we have for submittal. But we are still approving permits moving forward still.
Thank you. Okay, well that takes us to, that's informational only, so no council actions needed on that. takes us to item 16, City Council and Staff Reports. Councilmember Meyer?
Well, I had my first Community Action Commission of Riverside County and meeting, and it was a Zoom meeting. So I did learn a lot of information about what they do and what they stand for, and I'm excited to report that they do have some grants out there for low-income, maybe utility bills and maybe rental assistance. So hopefully I can get some of our local nonprofits plugged in there, and it would help. It's not limited just to elderly, so it would be a broader scope, but talk to Lineberger and to Valley Restart and the organizations that already have that set up, and then they can hopefully tap into that. So that's all I have.
Councilmember Percival?
Tuesday was Planning Commission. I did watch it on the city's website. They went pretty late because there was, and as people spoke here at the council meeting last night, reference to the orchard project with D.R. Horton, there was a lot of discussion about that, and we heard some of the same comments at the council meeting last night. So that was the big thing about getting that project moving. I know they did continue it to the next Planning Commission meeting, so that'll be there at the next one.
Okay. Councilmember Wright?
Well, most of the things have been canceled. WRCOG's been canceled. I don't really have anything more to report except, were you going to report on WC and the website?
Not in any detail.
Okay, so for those of you who are signed up for the Community Energy, Western Community Energy, they have a website now that has an estimated savings counter, and you can access it at https, you know what that is, westerncommunityenergy.com/, and currently, since May of 2020, the current savings is almost $900,000. So for those that, and actually they expect it to even be better down the road. So you can get a daily, minute by minute, energy savings information right on their website there. So you can either go to WRCOG website or this one directly to access that, to let you know how much the community, the Western Community Energy Program is saving.
Okay, thank you. Linda?
Checking my watch. The chief has a presentation in 16 minutes, and I have to introduce him. So we're going to talk fast. RTA is tomorrow. That's all I got. And Rotary's in 15 minutes.
Okay. Well, in the interest of time, I'll summarize. I'll be sending out information to full council and the staff on the website portal for WCE so that you can actually, it's good for us to be able to monitor it since we're a participating city, but all of the subscribers for WCE can also check their individual accounts. And all of my meetings have been by Zoom, and there's really nothing new to report on any of those things. So, ad hoc committee reports, SR 74, council protocols, nothing new to report there. City manager.
I only have one thing, and that's just to thank the staff, all of our team. Had a conversation this morning with leadership from SCIU, very good conversation. And so I really want to make sure that all the employees, Public Works, Community Development, IT, Engineering, PD, Fire, Finance, everybody, HR, really knows library, how appreciative I am of them being able to conduct their work even in the midst of this pandemic. They've done an incredible job, and so I can't thank them enough for what they've done. They make me proud every day. So that's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 17, future agenda items. Do any council members have a request for future agenda items?
I'd like to see the resolution on there.
703?
I think it's already on there, but we need to get our nominees in for the infrastructure committee so that thing can get started up, because there's a lot of issues out there that need to be taken care of.
What was the second?
I'm looking to see, I don't see anything on
On the resolution.
Resolution on the infrastructure is not on there?
The resolution is just,
right. That one would need to be added, but I think we also
Yeah.
need to add the infrastructure commission. Yeah, so we need infrastructure commission appointments. Yeah. Okay. And you second both of those?
I seconded that one. She was just reminding us, so we need to, it needs to be put back on, I guess we need to.
For the infrastructure commission appointment.
The only thing is we need individual council members to put their applicants forward and get them appointed by the mayor and the city council. So that's all we need.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to add resolution, a review of resolution 4703. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Percival?
Yes.
Councilmember Wright?
yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes, that passes unanimously. Okay, that brings us to item 18, adjournment, and be no further business. The meeting is adjourned to the next regular council meeting on July 14th. Thank you all for your participation and indulgence. We're adjourned.